Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for getting up so early today to join us for our Business Breakfast Series. And this is actually the last Business Breakfast Series for this academic year, and we're already currently working on the calendar for next fall and spring, so we'll be updating you with that information as we move forward. We are fortunate to have with us this morning Suzanne Shoemaker, who is the CEO and founder of Undercare. Suzanne, like many women, has had several careers. Following her graduation from Georgetown University, Suzanne worked for 5 years on the editorial staff of the New Yorker magazine. Suzanne left the magazine to devote full time to her next career as a mother. While raising her 3 children here in Bronxville, Suzanne returned to school and earned a Master of Fine Arts degree from the New York Academy of Art in Manhattan. The rigorous art training she received, combined with the design skills she learned from her dad, who was a mechanical engineer, inspired her to create Undercare. Her patented design of Undercare garments, manufactured exclusively in the United States, provides increased dignity and independence to people with mobility issues. Since launching Undercare in 2011, Suzanne has earned several accolades, including a Lanza Award for the Strength of Business Plan from the Women's Enterprise Development Center. She was named a top 10 finalist in the Small Business Administration's Innovate Her competition. She participated in the IBM Mentorship Program and the MasterCard Pro Bono Challenge. And last month, Suzanne attended a Women in Innovation Roundtable at the White House. So now, to share her journey with you from editor to entrepreneur, please join me in welcoming Suzanne Shoemaker.
Hey. Well, good morning. I'm Suzanne Shoemaker, the CEO and founder of Undercare. I appreciate everyone coming out this morning so early. I'm delighted to be here. This morning I'm going to share with you the story of when and how I came up with the idea for Undercare and the steps to commercialization of my idea. My goal is to inspire anyone who is thinking about becoming an entrepreneur and to show that it can be done. And to everyone else, I hope you'll enjoy the story of my journey so far. I've been asked if I always thought I'd become an entrepreneur, and the answer to that question is no. Looking back, I can see that there are things that prepared me for it, but I have grown into the job one small step at a time. As Joyce said, I graduated from Georgetown University in 1980 with a degree in literature. I worked for the next 5 years at the New Yorker magazine in New York City as an editorial proofreader. I left the magazine to raise my children, and when they were small, I went back to school and received an MFA in painting and drawing the human figure. The New York Academy of Art is a graduate school that teaches figure drawing exclusively, using traditional drawing skills and techniques based in the Renaissance tradition. Interestingly, one of the founders and main supporters of the New York Academy was Andy Warhol, who believed that art education in America needed some help. So he wanted to bring back this old training. My art training included intense anatomical study, including all the bones and muscles, rotation of the joints, and understanding the mechanisms of the human body. While a student, I attended and participated in numerous dissections. By the end of the 2-year program, we were expected to be able to draw the human figure in all its complexity from the imagination. After graduating, I taught art for a few years in private schools in Westchester, and during that time, I further developed my skill in translating visual ideas into form. But enough of my background. All of this is leading up to my eureka or aha moment. Okay. So this is how it happened. A few years ago, I observed some elderly women struggling to dress following a swim class for arthritis at the YMCA in White Plains, New York. They were using grabby sticks, these long poles with pincers on the end, to pull their underwear on, up and over their feet and legs through the leg opening of the underwear. I was struck by how much difficulty they were having, yet how determined they were to self-dress. I thought to myself, what if I could design underwear that didn't require you to bend, balance, or stand on one foot in order to get dressed. I went home and told my family about it, and my children said, "Mom, you always have these ideas, but you never do anything about them." But this time they were wrong. So I come from a line of engineers. My father was an engineer who specialized in lift machinery, which I think is kind of interesting considering I was watching the women lift their legs, specifically cranes. My great-grandfather, William Graham, invented a specialized nut and bolt in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the 1880s. The combination of spatial thinking and my thorough knowledge of the human body contributed to the genesis of the idea. After thinking about the idea and making a few preliminary sketches, I cut and sewed together some underwear and created my first working prototype. You should see it. I still have it. I mean, actually, maybe you shouldn't see it. So exactly what is Undercare? Undercare has invented the best possible solution to the underwear problem. We've spent years developing perfect prototypes. Most people think about incontinence when they think about specialty undergarments, especially for seniors. But we address a separate issue, the issue of mobility limitation. We're not a diaper and we don't look like one. Once on, our undergarments look, feel, and function like regular underwear. Our wrap and fasten undergarments offer dignity and independence to those who struggle with self-dressing. Ever since Adam and Eve left the Garden of Eden, we've been wearing underwear. But what hasn't changed until now is how we put it on. Now there's a new way to put on your underwear. Who says you need to put on your underwear the old-fashioned way, one leg at a time? This is how it's done. Take Undercare's one-piece briefs or boxers. Wrap the two wings around your waist and fasten with a soft and flexible Velcro tab. Once fastened at the waist, pull the attached panel through your legs from back to front and fasten at the sides, again with soft and flexible Velcro tabs. You don't need to bend your knees, point your foot, or pull up the undergarment over your feet and legs. I had the idea and I had a working prototype, but that was just the beginning. Thomas Edison said an invention is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. This makes a good point, but I would say that it really isn't 99% perspiration. If all I needed to do was physical labor to get my invention to market, I would have been happy. But in reality, what I needed to do was to reinvent myself as a businesswoman. There was a great deal of learning ahead. So here I was with my hand-sewn, easy-on underwear. Now what? In the early 1980s, 35 years before, I attended a Christmas party in Long Island with my husband at one of his colleagues' houses out on Long Island. At the party, I was introduced to Dal Lamagna, known as Tweezer Man. He had just launched his new company, and the host of the party was his lawyer. We talked for a while. He told me about his new company, and it must have made quite an impression on me because I remembered the conversation vividly, even today. So fast forward, 35 years later, serendipitously, I ran into the lawyer who had hosted the party so many years before. I asked him about the Tweezer Man. I told him that I had developed a new idea and I wanted to ask him for some advice. He put me in touch with Tweezer Man, whose name is Dal Lamagna, and Dal was great. He was enthusiastic about my product and my idea, and he's mentored me ever since. He has invested in the company. He was my first investor, and he provides excellent advice to me whenever I need it. Additionally, Mr. Lamagna's business model is responsible capitalism, which fits with my values. He's a self-proclaimed serial entrepreneur with great experience and talent. He takes a special interest in entrepreneurship, and I'm really very indebted to him for all the help he's given me. One of the first things I was told to do was to achieve patent protection of my idea. I made an appointment with Kenyon & Kenyon, an IP law firm in New York City. I took my rather pathetic-looking, hand-sewn prototype and went to the meeting. Kenyon & Kenyon offices are way downtown at 1 Broadway. You know, it's floor-to-ceiling glass windows. You can see the Statue of Liberty. People don't walk across the floor. They sort of slide across the floor. You get the idea. So I was ushered into a large, quiet office, and there were several buttoned-up lawyers sitting around a large conference table, and I was really mortified. I thought, oh, this is really going to be embarrassing. So from my research, I was aware of the story of Sarah Blakely, who is the founder of Spanx. And when she went around looking for a manufacturer to manufacture her product, people thought that she was from Candid Camera. So actually, I'm dating myself. For the young people in the room, that was a television show that would be the equivalent of Punk'd, the Punk'd television show today. So this was my fear, that the lawyers would think it was a ridiculous idea and they would laugh. But they didn't. And soon we were launched into a discussion about utility versus design patents and so on. They liked the patents, they liked the idea. I achieved my first patent in March 2013, and we continue to work on new patents for new products. The lawyers told me that it's rare to find a sole inventor who is also the sole owner of the patent. And they also said that many people who come into their offices do not have a working prototype either. The ideas are often still in the inventor's head or are drawn on a napkin. So when I came in with my working prototype, it gave me a lot of credibility with them. So among the many hats that my mentor, Dal Lamagna, wears, he's on the board of directors of Bennett & Company in Newburyport, Massachusetts, which is a company that creates and manufactures women's lingerie. He introduced me to them, and they helped me take my idea to the next level. I took my rough sewn prototype, and they made patterns and prototypes. I began with the woman's snap bikini. This was the first iteration. We also began to work on Velcro closure and the men's brief design. I've spent a great deal of time and money developing perfect prototypes. These are the Velcro fastening ones, and these are the Velcro fastening boxers. I've had many different pattern makers, sample makers, and sewers work on the product line for various reasons. I've traveled to the Amish country in Pennsylvania to find a pattern maker there and work with her. I worked in Newburyport, Massachusetts, but ultimately I started working in the garment district right here in New York, which is really trying to bring back production to the US, and I found a lot of great people, and I was very happy with the results I got working with people right here in New York. And it was also a lot closer. A little more expensive, but it worked for a lot of other reasons. With each new iteration has improved the styles. Prototype development is a multi-step process that I had to learn. For example, each style is first developed in a size, usually a medium. Each company or brand has its own particular fit, so there's not universal fit. Each brand fits a little differently. To develop the fit, you must hire something called a fit model. A fit model is a little different from a runway model. They are models who have bodies that measure out to a perfect size. Each new prototype must be fit on the model. So a team of sewers, designers, and me would check out the fit on all sides when we were developing the prototype. The prototype often goes through 3 or 4 revisions. Now, a fit model, by the way, is great work if you can get it. They're paid about $240 an hour. So next, Patterns must be made and digitized. Oh, and here I am with a fit model. I thought I just threw that in there to see if you were paying attention. Okay. And these are some scenes from, I did a lot of work at North Carolina State College of Textiles and to become production ready. And these are just a few looks into some of their labs that I worked with. This is Professor Trevor Little and a young woman who helped me with the stuff. Okay, so next the patterns need to be digitized. So there are special CAD, computer assisted design software programs that are used to take and digitize the pattern once the pattern's created. And it's tricky because there are many different programs that do this. You can digitize your pattern into one of many different programs. And if you send the digitized pattern to a factory that doesn't have that exact same program, they either won't be able to open it, or when they open it, it will have distortion. So if that's the case, you then have to send the pattern back to New York to create a marker. They will then translate it into the correct software and send it back to the factory. But you can see that all of this takes time and money. So a pattern can be graded for up to 4 sizes in one direction. Now, what that means is patterns are created and they're usually set up to be nested like this. So this would be several sizes. If my sample is a size medium, I can go 2 sizes up and 2 sizes down. If I wish to make more sizes, a new pattern is required. So the next step is to have a marker made of the pattern. This is the layout of the pieces of the pattern for cutting. Maximum utilization of the fabric is the goal, so the pieces are laid out very close together in order not to waste the fabric. So this is a picture of Professor Little it's like a tanagram thing, trying to fit together the pieces of the boxer actually onto the fabric. And fabrics of course can come in different widths, so you have to have the specifications in order to do this. And fabrication is a whole other world. Fabrication comes in every size, shape, and color. For me, I had to learn the difference between woven and knitted fabrics. Additionally, there's fabric weight and yarn size. For woven fabrics, there are different quality cottons, long and short fibers, and this affects the strength and the softness of the fabric. So that's a whole world that takes a long time to learn. I wanted to learn more about the business of being an entrepreneur. And so to this end, there's a lot of resources available. And to this end, I enrolled in a 15-week class at the Women's Enterprise Development Center in White Plains, New York. This was a wonderful group of women and totally supporting female entrepreneurship. And I took a class that taught me a great deal. And I emerged with an official business plan. I was the winner of the Lanza Foundation grant at the end of the class and received some favorable press, $5,000 in a year of peer counseling. The award was presented to me at a WEDC luncheon where Mika Brzezinski was the keynote speaker. This was my class of graduates from my particular year when I went. So in addition to the WEDC class and program, I availed myself to any help I could find, and there was a lot of it around. I attended WEDC seminars, peer counseling, and classes. I also received business counseling from SCORE in Westchester, from the Small Business Development Centers in Rockland, SBA seminars and webinars, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center in White Plains. That's a group that helps you to get contracts with the government. The MasterCard Pro Bono Challenge, the Acceleration Project in Scarsdale, and so on. It was really like getting an MBA, but it was really better because I wasn't in a classroom. I was doing it while I was learning, so it was a really great experience. I learned a lot. And I continue to go to the mentoring. I have a standing appointment at SCORE every Friday morning at 10, and I keep in touch with all my groups. I have become an SBA certified woman-owned business. In order to be eligible for government contracts, I had to register with the Systems Award Management and get a DUNS and a cage number. I'm in the process of getting onto the GSA solicitation schedule and becoming a New York certified minority/women-owned business enterprise. There are government set-asides for women, minority, and veteran-owned businesses, and it's very helpful to attend the certification because it puts you ahead in bidding. Manufacturing is a substantially underrepresented industry, so I have an extra advantage being in that industry. Additionally, I'm a sole source. My product is unique, so that I will have an advantage from that too when bidding on contracts. All of this gives me an advantage in obtaining government procurement. The paperwork to achieve certification is laborious and long. Everything must be documented and notarized, but it's worth the effort. In December, I won the local and regional Innovate Her competition and then was named one of the top 10 finalists nationwide. I was invited to the final round in Washington last month. It was very exciting to be included. My competition was very impressive. I was among a group of women who had created really interesting inventions. We had an ER pediatrician who invented a pacifier that you can squirt medicine into for correctly dosing babies. There was an inventor of a software program that digitizes sewing patterns so that they may be downloaded and printed from a home computer. And there was a doctor who developed a method of detecting breast cancer through proteins in tears. What a tremendous opportunity for me. So now back to the business of building the business and its infrastructure. It was necessary for me to become a corporate entity, which requires registration in New York State. I became registered as a New York State subchapter S Corp. This form of entity permits me to sell 200 shares of stock to no more than 35 investors, and I cannot offer a mass solicitation as a subchapter S. You can't deviate from the rules, and you have to keep careful records because otherwise you risk getting into a lot of trouble and being fined by the SEC. So fortunately, I've been able to finance through family and friends. 82.5% of Undercare is woman-owned, and crowdfunding is becoming a popular method for financing a company, and that's something that we're currently looking into. There's a lot going on with crowdfunding. It's a really interesting area. So another part of becoming a small business owner is to develop a website. I have developed an interactive, here are some pictures of Washington. There I am. Okay, here's page one of my landing page on my website. I have developed an interactive website that's user-friendly and it's able to take sales. Developing the website included hiring more models for photography, writing the content, and trademarking all the names of all the products and the name of the company. Social media is an important marketing tool, and that requires time and energy to maintain. So at last I found myself at a point where I had the product, I had a patent, and I had a corporation, and I had some business training. This is where the rubber hits the road, right? Now it's time for marketing and sales. As Mark Cuban on Shark Tank says, sales cure all. So, speaking of Shark Tank, yes, I did try out in Miami, and I got to pitch, but it was very early in my company, and I was pre-revenue, so I was really a little too not far enough along for them, but it was an interesting experience. When you start a business, you want to begin making sales, and in order to do that, you need to perform an analysis of the market and see if and how your product fits into the market. Undercare is a product that can be used by many different segments of the population. So what I had to do is I had to determine, who should I go after? So the obvious choice was the aging demographic. So as baby boomers come of age, and lifespans lengthen, we have a mature marketplace emerging. The age wave tsunami, as I've heard it called, is upon us. Companies whose products are aligned with the needs of the new generation of maturing consumers have tremendous opportunity. Life expectancy has increased, and there are more seniors than ever before in the history of the world. The number of people in the U.S. over age 85 is projected to grow from 5.9 million in 2012 to 8.9 million in 2030 and 18 million in 2050, which will be 5% of our population will be over 85. The fastest growing demographic is the over 90s. There's less focus on youth and more on the needs, challenges, and aspirations of middle-aged and mature consumers. Additionally, the time has come to address the needs of the underrepresented community of persons with disabilities, a group that spans both young and old. There's currently a huge push to create fashion for the disabled. MIT has started an open style lab which puts together engineers, fashion designers, and occupational therapists to work on solutions for differently abled bodies. The Style Lab was created to design clothing for clients with amputations, spinal cord injuries, early onset arthritis, and other disabilities. Early on, I became interested in selling to the VA, the Veterans Affairs. I am working with the VA at the local, regional, and national levels. Talk about bureaucracy, wow. And I'm working across the country. I've been at the Hudson Valley, I've been in Florida, I've been in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and San Francisco. I go all over. And what they say about the VA is that if you've seen one VA, you've seen one VA. And it's true because everyone is different. And I go to some where they're quite impressive. For example, in Chicago, the James Brown facility is shared with Northwestern, and it's really beautiful facility. But then I've been at other facilities where I'll drive around to the back to park, and I'll see, a lonely, forgotten vet sitting in a wheelchair smoking a cigarette. And lots of times driving up to Hudson Valley, I would see vets hitchhiking to their appointments. So it was an eye-opener to be working with the VA. So I learned that in Vietnam, many soldiers suffered from spinal cord injury. But in Iraq and Afghanistan, limb injury is foremost. So many soldiers would lose limbs altogether or must undergo rehabilitation of the lower limbs. And Undercare helps to enable an injured warfighter to maintain independence in dressing. The VA has given me input into the products, and they led me to develop the styles that used Velcro. Apparently metal snap fasteners can cause skin breakdown for people who are in wheelchairs. And we also flattened the seams on the men's brief to make it as flat as possible for the comfort of people who sit in wheelchairs. There's a great need to reach out to the VA and accommodate our injured veterans, both male and female. The VA has been criticized for its lack of sensitivity to women, who now make up 14% of the military and 20% of all new recruits. When Lieutenant Colonel Tammy Duckworth's Black Hawk went down in 2004, she became the first female double amputee. So when she woke up in Walter Reed 2 weeks later, she was handed a care package of socks, razors, and men's briefs. So this is something that never should have happened, right? Unfortunately, she wasn't given Undercare. I've presented at Helen Hayes Rehabilitation Support Group in Haverstraw, and I've displayed my products at the Adaptive Sports Expo. I'll speak to the Amputee Coalition Support Group at NYU Langone later this month, and I'll attend the Abilities Expo in New Jersey next month. And all of these efforts to build my brand and create contacts and ultimately sell my product. To date, I've received positive feedback from all the people who have tried it out, and I have a growing supply of testimonials from satisfied and grateful individuals who have tested out the products. So that's all good news. Undercare is committed to manufacturing in the USA. I tried out a factory in China, but really didn't work out. So when you use Velcro, Velcro comes on a strip with what they call selvage on the right and left side, kind of like a margin. Think of a piece of carpeting where the end is bound, okay? So the Chinese factory didn't use proper selvage. They used an inferior product, so they just had large sheets of Velcro and they just cut it like this. So it was then sewn onto the undergarments. But when we got the shipment back and we opened them up and we're doing quality control and spot checking the product, it was fraying. So fortunately, I dodged a bullet, and I had been introduced to this particular company, and somebody intervened on my behalf, and we got it all straightened out. But it's something to think about, because in China, there's a whole cultural and language divide. And what I find people doing is Americans who are producing in China often hire somebody and pay a lot of money to have somebody over in China to oversee production. And the way I did the number crunch, I figured, I'd rather not spend $4,000 a month to have somebody in China overseeing production. And you have to do that, because if there are human rights violations or employment issues, it can really kill your brand. So you do have to monitor what's happening in the factory in China. But I figured that I would rather just pay a little more, pay a premium, but keep it in the United States. And that's where I am with that right now. I tried out a factory in New York City in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, and that was a really scary place. It was straight out of Law and Order. I had my cell phone on 911 with my thumb on the 9. The whole time I was in there, it was really strange. And they had cameras on all the women sitting and sewing at the desks, and big bolts on the doors. It really gave me an uncomfortable feeling. I didn't like being down there at all. So I traveled across the South, where there's a huge push to bring back manufacturing. It's where all the manufacturing used to be. And I found a factory to partner with, and I'm very happy about that. I visited and toured the factory, and they've created sew-by samples for me, and I'm very excited to be working with them. We're finally going into production, and it's very exciting. So in addition to the underwear, we've developed additional products, bathing suits and sportswear, which we will introduce in a few months. Competitive games and sports, such as Paralympic sporting events, are embraced by the disabled community. Recovering and disabled soldiers benefit from sports activity. Veterans of foreign wars, Paralyzed Veterans of America, the Gary Sinise Foundation, these are just a few of the many organizations that support the vets. Undercare hopes to help by providing appropriate apparel. Necessity is the mother of invention. Understanding the needs of individuals who struggle due to physical impairment and the need for independence and dignity is very important to us. To that end, we've taken an everyday object, underwear, and made some creative adjustments to it with a good result. It's very exciting to finally be in production after a lot of work, and we look forward to the next phase of continuing to build our company and selling our products. Thank you for your time. I hope you learned something about the process of bringing an idea to market and all that entails. I feel like I barely scratched the surface. But I also hope you find inspiration in knowing that it is possible to do it. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time. And I'll show you how this works. So this is the bathing suit. So it does not look adaptive, right? So part of what we hope to do is take the stigma away from people who need specialty garments, right? So what happens is, this is the Velcro. I won't take it completely apart, but so it comes all apart. It's all one piece. So you would put the zipper on over your shoulders like a vest and zip it up. And then this panel would be pulled from the back through your legs, and then you attach it to the Velcro on the right and left sides like this. So this means that you don't have to pull a wet bathing suit up and over your feet and legs. And a lot of people who have disabilities, aquatherapy is very helpful. But one of the reasons people don't get it is because getting into and out of a bathing suit is, a really difficult task. So we've made, the product line has men's briefs. These are in olive drab because, of course, as you know, I'm marketing to the VA, so I tried to be thoughtful that way. Here is the women's brief, which really looks like a regular old pair of underwear. This is a men's board short, a bathing suit for men, and works the same way. So it's not the right colors because it's a sample, but same thing, wrap around your waist, attach, pull this piece through from behind and attach on the right and left sides. And we also have gone into what they call the politically correct term extended sizes, because there's actually a huge market, underserved market for people who are really large. And I've had interest from various places. It's Nordstrom is interested, Department of Corrections. But think about it, if you have an unruly offender who's maybe in leg chains or who doesn't want to get dressed, putting wrap and fasten underwear on this person is going to be a lot easier than trying to have somebody kicking and screaming while you put it on. One of the places I visited was the Florida State Hospital for the Criminally Insane. Yes, they let me leave. Had no problem. But they were very interested too because they said anything that helps their caregivers dress the patient is something that they're interested in. So my neighbor, John Calhoun, some of you might know him, is an art director, and he developed this packaging for me. So one of the things you do when you're a small business and you're just getting off the ground is you sort of reach out to everybody you know who might be able to give you some input or help. So I think John did a great job developing this for me. He also developed my business card. And then here are the boxers. And we made them in pink for women, and I have them in red, white, and blue for men. And they work the same way as well as everything else. So there you go. You fasten at the waist, right? Soft and flexible Velcro. So then once it's fastened at the waist, it leaves both hands free so that you can reach through and pull up the front panel and attach on the right and left sides. And there you have it, Undercare. Yes. Sure.
So what a great idea. Every once in a while you come across an idea where you say, why did it take so long for someone to think of this? And with a huge market.
Yeah.
So up until now you've chosen the path of kind of grinding it out, manufacturing on your own. Have you ever thought of or entertained talking to some of the big players about licensing the product?
I have thought about that, and that's something that I would be interested in. So I'm looking into that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a long process. I know going through the government
Yes.
route, but a smart one is a one-on small business.
Yeah.
And now you're ratcheting up internet. But I'm assuming that it'll be a little bit more challenge once you start looking at the big retailers. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it would be ideal to get a government contract because they're large, it's a lot of volume, and that would really free me up to be more relaxed about the business to consumer development. So I have put a lot of effort into the VA, and we'll see how that goes. I'm actually leaving after this today. I'll be going down to Tampa to meet with them for the second time. So see where that goes. Yes.
Well, first of all, hats off for your tenacity and entrepreneurialism. Talk about an inspiration, not just for our students, that you can do anything if you really try hard enough. We've known each other for years, and I really, because of my being away, just recently coming back, I had no idea that you were doing this and working so hard. So again, hats off. The biggest single thing I think that I'm taking away from this is, of course, you have to have an idea.
Yeah.
But you have to really be determined. Would you say that would be the takeaway for all of us or for students?
You have to
You
be
just have
determined.
to keep doing it, right?
And keep learning.
And keep learning.
Because one of the things I've realized
Because you do
is,
everything.
well, right, a lot of hats when you're doing this. And I have a very limited business background. So all of that I had to really work at to learn. I had to learn how to generate reports in QuickBooks. This is not something I had ever done before. But I also realized how uneven I am. I mean, there were certain things that I really loved doing. I mean, mainly the creative parts were easy for me. I was comfortable in my wheelhouse. But then there were other things where I felt, insecure and not comfortable. So, but you have to do it all. You can't just do the stuff you like.
How many times, to tell the truth, did you just feel like, or did you ever, I just can't do this. I think I'm biting off more than I can chew. Did you get to that real low point?
I didn't get all the way there, but there are sometimes. No, mostly because I've had people invest in the company, I feel that I can't go there because I feel there are a lot of people who have supported me and who have believed in me, and so I want to do right by them. So.
And you have to prove your kids wrong. That's probably the
Thank you.
number one motivator.
Yeah, that's going to feel really good.
What about QVC or one of those? Because when you talk through, and it's the service that's so missing in stores today, that people to explain, it's such a simple, I can even think in hospitals, emergency rooms where people are bleeding and they don't want to have those open gowns and be exposed during x-rays or all those things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
A disposable version.
The sky's the limit.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and I've had interest from all different places. I mean, Medline came up to me, and So that's one of the things that you need to do is like to narrow it down and pick something. And it might not be the best thing ultimately, but you can't do too much. You have to kind of slow it down and start with a few and see how that works, and then go on from there.
And be flexible enough to know when that step didn't work to go on to another route.
And QVC is a little intimidating. I mean, if you have a great product, apparently they buy you out. And Shark Tank too, there's a reason it's called the Shark Tank. They really are sharks, and they take a huge bite of equity, and they want control of the company. So what people have told me about Shark Tank is the reason you would go on would be for the exposure, the television exposure, but you would never take their deal because it wouldn't be advantageous to you.
You mentioned that you had, utilized resources locally like the Women's Economic Development Center and so on. What would you say was probably the most helpful of the local groups that you reached out to in terms of long-term help and things like that?
WEDC, Women's Enterprise Development Center, has been with me for years. So I've developed a relationship with many people there. So I would have to put them at the top. Also, the Small Business Development Center in Rockland has been great. And then SCORE, their offices are across from Bloomingdale's in White Plains. And this is an association of retired executives.
What were some of the entrepreneurial skills that you had, that you possessed already, or that you had to learn in order to be as successful as you are? I mean, certainly risk-taking, I guess that had to be in you, and perseverance.
I think so. I think I was thinking about that the other day, and I was remembering an incident when I was quite small. So one of my early childhood memories is being in a nursery school class, and it was Thanksgiving, and the teachers had us tracing our hands to make a turkey, where this becomes the head and this is the feathers. And I was 3 or 4, and I guess I had paid attention but I didn't want to do the turkey, so I traced my hand, and mine became the Indian chief. So mine had 5 feathers, and I put the face of the Indian chief on my hand. So the teachers were really excited about this. I got positive feedback. And so I learned that I had taken a risk. I had thought outside of the box. I had done something different. I didn't follow the rule or the assignment, and I got positive feedback. Maybe it would have been different if I had had a teacher who had scolded me or sat me in the corner or something like that for doing it. But I think some of my early formative experiences with art were very helpful. And I think learning to think spatially was really helpful too in solving some of the problems in developing the product line.
Did I answer your question?
Yes. And I would also, I mean, obviously your communication skills, your marketing ability, I would imagine those are innate to you.
Yeah, I mean, some things I have to work out really hard. I mean, I don't think I'm a great public speaker. I seem to feel pretty comfortable today, but sometimes I feel pretty nervous and I'll forget things that I wanted to say. You know, it's every day, you know, it's sort of you climb one mountain and then you get over it and there's the next one. It's kind of how I feel about it. But it's been very stimulating and very interesting for me. And I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed everything about it, really, pretty much. Yes?
Have you had people try out your prototypes as you develop them, like running around and maybe your ladies at the pool with the bathing suit?
Yes.
To say, you know, give you feedback as far as
Yes.
This pinches or this.
Yeah.
And that's a really important thing to do. And when I get my latest production run, I'm going to be going into a trial at the Carroll Manor Nursing Home in Washington, D.C. It's affiliated with Providence Hospital. And they are going to give the products to their residents, and we'll get some feedback that way. Yeah, I'm excited to see what people have to say. At some of these conferences I've been to, this one organization I'm involved with, Aging 2.0, they're trying to be like on the cutting edge of innovation having to do with the whole aging demographic. One of the things that they do is match you up and help you find people who will test out your products. So I work with them.
I bet you didn't realize the cost of sampling and product, yeah.
And you can't just throw money at it either.
No.
Not only do you have to pay a lot for it, but you have to oversee it. And you have to have relationships with everybody. And, you know, some people, I've been at a lot of things where the women are talking about, you know, well, we came from a STEM background and science and math, but I did not. I mean, and I can say that I really have not felt that I faced discrimination as a woman in anything I've tried to do. If it was there, I wasn't aware of it.
Not so much a question, but an observation. The story you just shared about being, you know, in school and thinking outside the box and being willing to take a risk. One of the things that I appreciate about what you were sharing is this willingness and desire to continue to grow. That lifelong learning thing that we talk about here with students all the time, and even with our colleagues, is so important. You don't evolve, you graduate, and you're done. That it's a journey, it's a process, and I commend you for the reaching out that you've done.
Yeah.
That you know, the organizations and the affiliations that have supported you, and I'm sure you've supported others within them. But that says a lot about why you are where you are right now.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Just asking for help is so hard for so many people.
Yes.
Because they don't know how and they feel like it's a reflection on them. So
Yeah.
again, many kudos.
I don't have that problem.
Yeah,
That's good.
I like to ask for help, and I learn from everybody. I mean,
Yes.
Hi. Thank you so much for this.
Oh,
This
you're
has
welcome.
been delightful. 2 questions. Where is your factory?
my factory is in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Carolina. And regarding like disability, orthopedics, those who have like knee injuries or hip fractures, or, you know, for older people.
Yes.
Have you thought about going to like the orthopedic doctor's offices or, you know, I don't know, just
Yeah.
that
Yes.
mainstay of, you know,
Yes.
persons who would definitely need it. I had hip surgery and that would have been so convenient for me.
Sorry.
It was
Yeah.
so, I know.
Yeah.
Now
Did you
that
just
I
do one
know,
hip? Maybe when
you
you
can help
do the other
someone
one.
else, you know? You can help someone else with it. I saw the grabber that, you
Yeah.
know, we
Is that
had
what
to
you
kind
used?
of use. Of course,
Yeah.
you know, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But this is just a wonderful product and I'll be praying for you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thanks. Yes.
How long did it take to figure out the name you were going to use? Did that go through?
Undercare?
Yeah.
It was one of the first things I came up with. That's something I like doing. I like naming everything. So I came up with Undercare. Some people didn't like it. They said it sounded too boring or clinical, but I kind of like it because it rhymes with underwear. And the name for this product is Out of the Boxers. And when I do my line for children, I'm going to call them boom boxers. So this is the thing that I have a lot of fun with. And then the menswear I call rip wraps, which is a term that has to do with rocks that you put at the ocean's edge that wards off erosion. But I just like the name rip wrap. I thought it kind of suggested how the product works. And the women's is called lady slips. So the idea being slip into something more comfortably. Yeah. So I've had a lot of fun with that. And then with the extended size line, I'm calling it Not Too Big for My Britches.
Do we have any other questions? Well, if not, thank you, Suzanne.
You're welcome.